The Christmas Wager by Will Eisenberg. In the middle of winter, one fine Christmas Eve, a child named Joe dreamed of gifts he'd receive. He had spent the whole year being good and polite, and he certainly would be rewarded tonight. While Joe was asleep, many miles up north, the holiday heralds prepared to go forth. Which heralds are these, and what are their names? Well, give me a minute, and I shall explain. First, Santa Claus, king of the Christmastide day, who flies once a year in his reindeer-pulled sleigh. He travels the world, giving gifts to the kind, but passes the naughty, no presents they find. Second is Cupid, the angel of love, with flowers and romance and hearts from above. A prick from his arrow will lead you astray, once a year on the famous St. Valentine's Day. The leprechaun grins, what a magical laddie! He dresses in green for the feast of St. Paddy. His clover brings luck to the young and the old, and under his rainbow a crock filled with gold. In April or March, on a morning so sunny, the eggs are concealed by the dear Easter bunny. A basket of chocolate she also may bring, to celebrate life and rebirth in the spring. To amplify freedom on 4th of July, the Lady of Liberty brightens the sky. Her sparklers and rockets declare and decree the home of the brave and the land of the free. After the harvest on All Hallows Eve, for all of the kids who behave and believe, Grim Reaper approaches with pumpkins and sweets to welcome the children with tricks and with treats. After the pumpkins are carved and dismembered, on Thanksgiving Day at the end of November, arrives the great gobbler. She flies through the sky with gravy, potatoes, and sweet pumpkin pie. The birthday bird also, with presents and mirth, will greet you each year on the day of your birth. He travels the land from the west to the east, with candles, confetti, and cake for your feast. And one more remains, the sly Tooth Fairy's last, who envies the rest, always has in the past. So stingy that when she approaches a youth, she gives but a nickel for his or her tooth. These holiday heralds that now we perceive were meeting together that same Christmas Eve. While checking his scroll, Santa couldn't resist presenting them all with a name from his list. Behold, if you will, this young child named Joe. Of all the nice kids, he's the nicest I know. Considerate, thoughtful, well-mannered, the best. So yearly with presents galore he is blessed. Thus Santa proclaimed as he loaded his sleigh, and most of the others agreed with his praise. Except for the fairy, who gritted her teeth and grumbled aloud as she shredded a wreath. Your Joe might be nice, but the actual reason is just to get gifts during holiday season. But I bet if he failed to get presents tonight, this year he'd turn naughty. I know I am right. The others all scoffed at the Tooth Fairy's claim, but Santa decided to put her to shame. I'll follow your challenge. No presents for Joe. We'll see if his manners continue to show. So later that night, for the very first time, young Joe received nothing without any crime. But Joe on that morning of Christmas remained as happy as always and didn't complain. He played with the toys that he already had. Not even a moment was gloomy or sad. But the Tooth Fairy still, though the boy proved her wrong, refused to accept that his virtue was strong. So several weeks later, the treacherous fairy returned to the Arctic in mid-February, asserting that Joe would give in to dismay if Cupid ignored him on Valentine's Day. So Cupid conceded. The child received no candy or hearts, but he still wasn't grieved. The fairy pressed on with her double-down bet that Joe might grow naughty and mischievous yet. So Santa relented, the others obeyed. The boy received nothing on each holiday. The leprechaun left him alone in his flat. No shamrocks or rainbows to honor St. Pat. On Easter, no eggs, though he hadn't been bad. How his parents were shocked, how they pitied the lad. No flags or parades for the birth of the nation. How tragic, like tax without representation. That fall, when the children in costumes were dressed, exploring the streets, trick-or-treating in jest, Grim Reaper neglected to bring any toys that he gave to the girls and the good little boys. And when it was time for the Thanksgiving feast, the gobbler brought nothing, no food in the least. When Joe had his birthday, no party occurred, no presents or cake from the dear birthday bird. His mother sent letters and tried to invite, but his neighbors resisted with all of their might. To go a whole year without candy or presents, Joe must be avoided with luck so unpleasant. So Joe remained home, helping Mom with the dishes, still hoping that someone would answer his wishes. Then, late in December, while hanging a wreath, Joe noticed some wiggling in one of his teeth. He played with it, jostled it, gave it a heave, and out popped his tooth on that same Christmas Eve. That night, as the Tooth Fairy watched the boy rest, she gathered his tooth and planned one final test.
"My child," she said, gently waking the boy, "how long has it been since you got a new toy?"
"I don't know," replied Joe, "why my life's so austere. I have gone without presents for almost a year. Without misbehaving or telling a lie, I guess no one cares, but I cannot think why."
"How tragic!" the fairy replied to the lad. "This punishment wasn't because you were bad, but come with me quickly, and let us go forth to where Santa Claus lives in the Pole in the North."
So she carried the boy through the wintry breeze to the top of the Arctic, up 90 degrees. She smuggled him in past the hundreds of elves and showed him the thousands of toys on the shelves.
"Behold, these are all of the presents you crave, but Santa resented how well you behave, so he kept them away, kept them all for himself. Now go ahead, take what you want from the shelf. You know you deserve all the toys that you see. Collect all you can, then together we'll flee."
Joe kept himself quiet and thought to himself, and although he was tempted to pilfer the shelf, he shook his head no and requested to go.
"It's time to return to the wintry snow."
Yet the fairy was crafty and tried to entice him to choose which was naughty before what was nice.
"Well, then think of your friends and imagine their glee. Take presents for them, show how kind you can be."
"I won't," replied Joe, "for I cannot be kind while distributing presents that never were mine." Then the Tooth Fairy screamed as if burned by a coal, so loud she awoke the entire North Pole. Thus Santa uncovered the Tooth Fairy's scheme, saying, "Joe has resisted temptation extreme." The Tooth Fairy watched in her bitter dismay as Santa led Joe to his magical sleigh. He filled it with presents, enough for a year, and flew the boy home with a heart full of cheer. For the rest of his life, when the holidays came, though Joe received numerous presents and games, he never got greedy, but always was glad to share with his friends all the toys that he had. So listen, my children, and take my advice, that presents are not why your deeds should be nice. Be generous, virtuous, trust and believe. Do good without caring what gifts you'll receive. But the fairy, what came of her slanderous mouth? Why, Santa Claus banished her off to the south, and there she will stay, since her job was transferred to the marvelous, generous birthday tooth bird. The End. The Christmas Wager by Will Eisenberg.